me. I would have rather been digging the tunnel under that bank like me and you did than
Like, shh,
walking
shh,
into.
shh. No, I'm just kidding. Digging the tunnel under the bank was not a crime. Our families, our futures, our friends, and all the above. Anyways, welcome to the show. Welcome to the No Way Podcast. I'm Mason Matthews. Travis is with me, Travis Boyette. Please, let's do our intros. We're going to do some intros, tell you a little bit about us, and then get right into why you might care and what's coming up next. So, Travis, let's start off. Little background. Who are you? What's the story? What did you hate about your job before we said, no way am I doing this anymore? No way do I know how to do this, and no way am I going to fail. Gotta figure it out, right? So that's where we get the name of the podcast. Tell me a little about you, so anybody tuning in can hear.
So yes, my name's Travis. I grew up in a little town in the panhandle of Texas, and growing up I did the normal teenager thing, worked at fast food restaurants, a flower shop for a little bit, etc., that kind of thing. Once I got a little bit older, I had my first kid, so I started getting, I guess, what some people call big boy jobs.
Right?
And, I worked at a beef packing plant. I've worked for a plumber. I've worked at a sheet metal fabrication plant. A little bit after that, I
Did you do
started my
college
own
or
business.
anything?
What?
Did you do college or anything?
No
Did you
college for
graduate
me.
high school?
Yeah, I graduated high school. I just didn't go to college.
So Travis and I went to the same town, grew up in the same town, same street, same neighborhood, same friends, but I did not go to school in that town. I was only there in the summers or like when my dad would go to jail and I would live with my grandma. I would be in that town. Stuff like that. Just normal stuff. So yeah, I cut you off right when you were saying you did start a business. I do remember that because I got to build the logo or add it to a
Well,
t-shirt or something.
You did more than that.
Oh yeah, well I got
You
to
worked
help
there
work.
too.
Yeah, but I like the part that I like to do. I like the office jobs. So yeah, you started a business doing landscaping. B&B back in the day.
Yeah, B&B, we did landscaping, we did subcontractor work for the plumbing company that I actually worked for a few years prior to that.
So I was about to ask you what was the worst part about that, but I was there during that part. And I know some of the worst parts were we were doing labor. And
Yeah,
there's
hard labor
it's hard labor. It's hard. Yeah. Now, laying sod, not that hard a labor. Laying sod in the middle of Texas in the middle of summer sucks, but it's not that hard a labor. I look at the guys running, like building the roads, and I go, now that, oof, no thanks.
yeah, or like roofers. I've never done roofing besides like just personal stuff, like on my dad's house or whatever.
Roofing basically feels like people who hate their brain and just want to cook it. If you're in Texas, that's essentially what roofing is. And if you hang out, oh, I just alienated. I just pissed off all my roofer cousins. I'm like, if you hang out with them, you can tell half of them forgot to wear a hat. Like they just cook their brains. I'm just saying. It is way too hot in Texas to be up there. I felt like I was insane. Like for even being on a roof in Texas, you have to be kind of out of your mind. And then to be up there for 8 or 12 hours, because lots of labor jobs, lots of jobs, even like that landscaping business, jobs are not hourly. You get paid when you finish the job. And so you go out in the worst weather, the worst heat, the worst time of the day. You just got to get it done. You don't get to take a day off. So what was some of the stuff that you hated about all these various jobs? The reason I'm bringing this up is I'm going to share some of mine too. And really I found that there's a lot of similarity in where we find ourselves. And now we're out on a limb and we have just decided we're going to do the podcast and build a business and build real brick and mortar and build online business and do this all ourselves. There's other people that are going, why do I do this? Why do I show up? What was it for you that I would say you didn't like about the career job. I know you worked in a factory. I know you ran your own businesses. In the past, where did you draw the line, and how did we wind up where we are today? Can you take us from, where that I guess that's it. We thought we were going to go to college and get careers and get jobs and or work in factories and retire after 20 or 40 years, and that just isn't the game plan anymore for most of us in the workforce.
Yeah, I know. It's not like it was. Well, I don't know. Whenever I was growing up, probably you too, it was all about, oh, you got to go to college, get a nice job, yada yada yada. And I'm not gonna say I have anything against college, but I don't think it's cracked up. But I don't think it's as important today as it was back then, I guess is the best way to put it.
I've heard that it's totally the death of the Ivy League schools now, because I mean, look at what's happened over the last few years. And I homeschool all of my kids. I've got 4 kids. Travis, I know you've got kids. We obviously want them to be educated in some way, capable, want them to be capable of being happy and all these things. But do I think college and making sure that my child is primed and ready to go to Harvard is the best decision for my child's future? And I really don't think so anymore. I don't think it matters as much if you're going to be on Saturday Night Live, like Conan O'Brien, right? Like talk show host. He's a Harvard graduate. Nobody really pays attention to that stuff, because if you're really smart and you want to be funny or you want to be a performer, you're supposed to be stupid or dumb or artistic or something not super smart. I wanted to be a astronaut. Turns out you can just buy it with Bitcoin now. You can go to space. I'll go to Mars. I'll go hop on a SpaceX real quick. It's possible. I don't know exactly the details, but it's totally possible. Times have changed. You said it. When did you decide to stop with the factories? I have a little insight on this because about 2 weeks ago we decided we're going to do this. So what was that process for you? What happened where you drew the line in the sand? And
I mean, I guess the actual line in the sand moment was I was sitting outside of the plant that I was supposed to be going in to work at, and I just, I mean, I could do it. I'm not gonna say like, oh, I just couldn't do it. I just would have rather been anywhere else doing any. I would have rather been digging the tunnel under that bank like me and you did than
like,
walking into.
No, I'm just kidding. Digging the tunnel under the bank was not a crime. We were hired to do so. We were tunneling.
Yes.
For those plumbers. But it sounds really funny when you drop it in a story like that. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. I think it's not, oh, I can't do this anymore. It's a decision. I've decided to not. And so what did you do? You're sitting out in front of this building and you call, you turn around,
Yeah, I had been, I was like, okay, I gotta go into work now. And, I started to get out and I was like, I just looked at it and I heard the machines and everything humming, and I was like, no, I can't do it.
not
So I
today,
just got back in
Beavis.
my car and left. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Travis. Well, that's called balls. Like, that's cojones. That is courage. And we have to have courage, because I think the most important thing is time. For me, my background was also in odd jobs. I had worked a million odd jobs in construction and labor and restaurants and hospitality, and really thought maybe if I find a career, I can pay for college. And if I can afford to pay for college, I can make another $10, $15, $20,000 a year. Maybe I could break $100,000 in a single year and really up my game and be able to afford things like groceries and clothes. And it is ridiculous, when you're in poverty, which I imagine I don't know statistics. I don't pay attention to anything. I'm a nerd. I pay attention to like Star Trek and computers. But I imagine almost everyone's struggling. Times recently have been as tough as they've ever been in my lifetime, but I've heard that generation and generation and generation before. The times were better, that childhoods were the best of times, and all this for every generation before. And I know it's that way for me, for my kids now. Like when I was a kid, walk out the front door, come back when the streetlights are on. There's 2 or 3 parks within a mile or 2 of my house. No way are my 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12, 13-year-old kids walking to the park. They're no way. They're just not interested. It's too crazy out there, you know. And for me, I was just thinking we would leave and make it to halfway to Amarillo, 40 miles, get out to the canyon,
Yeah.
and
Well, I mean, it I live right across the street from like the biggest park in town, and I don't let my kids go over there unless I'm either like outside watching them or I go with them.
we might be helicopter dads. I'm sure there's plenty of dads who will have some advice, and I hope they do. Go ahead. Actually, keep your advice to yourself. I don't care. But anyhow, I'm open. I'm open to some good advice. But the thing is, we got to teach our kids some independence, just like we're coming out right now, because we have the bravery to do this, to go out on the limb. And that was what our generation was about. Handlebars without rubber covers, the bear claw, bicycle claws. You know what I mean? Like going off of ramps that were just 45-degree pieces of wood with bricks, with no landing ramp. Blowing out, getting road rash. All the stuff. I know for a fact that we petitioned for a lifetime to get a skate park built across the street from your house in this little town. And I've done that in almost every town I've ever lived in. And now having kids, I go, holy smokes, look at the risk. But without teaching people to go out and take that risk, without teaching them to drop in, without teaching them to pedal faster and go for it, to face the obstacle, we risk running out of time. I don't know if it's a great idea that you didn't go into the factory. We don't know yet. You find out later. But the alternative is waiting too long to find out if you can build the life that you believe is totally possible. And it works just like right before we went live, there was a little thing that came up on the screen right before we started recording this. And it said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it started recording. And that's the exact same thing that we have to do in life, is just take time and you go, okay, it's my turn to go up on stage. It's my turn to take action. It's my turn to get in the car, turn around, and build life on my terms. Sometimes there's a little sign. Sometimes you're on the phone with a friend and you didn't want to get off the phone. Whatever that case may be, you chose that day. And I just want to say for me, I've had a couple of those moments. I remember my 10-year anniversary at a business. I'd been there for a decade, and there was no email, there was no breakfast muffin, there was no cup of coffee, there was nothing. There was no acknowledgement. And about halfway through the day, I just went, I think really nobody cares. And I think if I worked somewhere for 10 years and I love these people and I love this business, I think I should not be so hurt that nobody cares. But I'm hurt. And I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to work for a business where I see every one of my customers at the time is very successful, very capable, being creative, building software, building their dreams and living their dreams and traveling the world and doing all these things. And this is far before I had kids. They just didn't answer an email. They didn't answer a response. But that 10-year was when I said, hey, I'm going to go live with and my now wife. I'm going to go down south. I'm going to go down South Texas. And if y'all want me, y'all can pay me half and I'll work half time. And I'm out. Like, I got to resign. I got to move on. And also another part of that was like, there's a sobriety aspect to that. I was drinking and partying. I was in a house with just a bunch of guys. Couldn't afford rent. I couldn't afford to pay the bills on my own. So I had to have a party house. I had to have 4 friends to be able to afford a house in the city close enough to work and travel and public transit and all these things that I don't know what the word, rigmarole is the word that comes to mind, but all these things that we do called be, do, have, do, be. So like, it's like, when I have that raise, when I get that next amount of income, I can have the house, and then when I have the house, it's my own house, I can be happy. And then I can be happy, and when I'm happy, I can do the things I love doing. I can go make friends and have relationships and all this stuff. That's the exact opposite of how we have to do things. I quit the job because it was making me sick. I heard the hum of the servers. I heard the hum of people in the office talking about stuff that did not matter. And I went, oh, I got to go. I am sick. This roller coaster is disgusting. Like I'm gonna get sick from this ride if I ride this ride anymore. And then the most recent one that I just got to share is I did just lose my dad. You know, my dad passed, and Travis is there. Travis, you've been there for me big time through this, being there with my dad in the hospital, having him come home to your house when I drove up to pick up my dad. He was there at your house, and I just think of these moments when I drove up there. I was thinking in my head that I was going to do a podcast with my dad, that I was going to write a book because we had just found out that he had limited time. I mean, he had stage 4 cancer, and so trigger alert. I guess I should have given someone a little warning there. But yeah,
I could put a graphic or
yeah,
something
put a
before you start talking
trigger
and
alert.
post.
Yeah, because it turns out we're not the only people that go through this. Turns out it's part of life. People lose their parents, and I had never really acknowledged that in a way until I personally had gone through it. And now I see my friends who have lost parents, and I really have this big sympathy for them, but also this like huge realization that time is just so much shorter than we think. So when we're standing outside the gates, or we're deciding we're going to write a book with our parents, or or write our own book or whatever. My dad said he's going to write a book 1,000 times. I opened a briefcase with enough pages in there to staple them together and call it an encyclopedia, but it's probably not what he intended. So don't run out of time, to do the things that you really want to do. And with all that heavy stuff said, I do want to say what's coming next and what I'm most excited about is working together with you, Travis, and building a business, and for us having this conversation. And our listeners should tune in and should chime in and should give some feedback on these fun things we're doing. Like we came up with some segments that we'll be introducing this week. This is more like a little pilot, but we'll come up with some business ideas. That's what I love to do. How do you take $100 or how do you go make your first $100 and turn it into a successful business? And totally free tips, whether it's from, fishing stories, which Travis, you haven't even really told us about, a little bit of your background, what you're most excited about. But I know you as the anime guy. I know you as the guy who has all kinds of creatures, amphibians and coral and fish and all kinds of cool stuff. You gotta show me how to care for my cuttlefish when I get my in-home aquarium. I'm gonna get me some cuttlefish. All right, so there's that, and we're gonna have some strategies, like some no fluff, no theory, just this is exactly how we do it. This is how we're doing this podcast. This is how we're growing our business that we're gonna share with you guys. And right now, if there was like one of those thermometers, like at school when you're trying to raise funds to be able to go on your big trip, our big trip is like be able to pay that light bill. And the thermometer heat is at 0. We're not looking for donations. We're not bringing bottle tabs, but we do have a mission here, and we're going to share that with everybody and either fail or win. Just do it in public. So I do want to mention that. And Travis, while I'm thinking of what to say about our Totally Free Academy, which will be a part of this community, I would love to know, what are you most excited about with the podcast, with the community, with giving? Well, I'll just go ahead and say the Totally Free Academy. I think the best way to say it is there is going to be strategies and courses and training, essentially the playbooks, all the things that I've done and all the things that we're doing together in the past. I'm going to give that away totally free, because there's things that you just don't learn in business school, things that mentors teach, but then sometimes take a decade to hear or listen or understand. So I want to put those things together. Then we're going to have our hobbies and our guests that come on the show, share their courses, their training. Travis is a guru when it comes to raising fish and all of this amphibious stuff that is way beyond my understanding. And I am a nerd. Oh, I hate the word guru. Maybe I shouldn't call you a guru. He's a nerd. But yeah, I'm a nerd at all this business development, marketing, and software stuff. So I want to share those things in the Totally Free Academy. And yeah, not a pitch. I just want to say if any of this is hitting home with you, please tell a friend about the show. That's the biggest compliment you can give. And if you've ever felt like there's just no fucking way, welcome to the club. You know, stuff happens. This is why we've built the podcast, and I want you to check out the Totally Free Academy because it's how we're going to show you the way. And Travis, with that being said, what are you most excited about so we can get out of here and get to work on sharing those stories?
So, I mean, number one thing that I'm most excited about, and this is what everybody says, is being your own boss. Everybody thinks it's a great thing, but I've done it before. It's not as fun as what a lot of people think it is that's never done it. But also enjoying the work that you're doing. I'm going to enjoy setting up all my fish tanks again and starting to breed animals and sell them and hopefully, or not hopefully, but whenever this and my fish business starts to make more money, which is always the goal, using any extra time that I have to spend more time with the family.
So I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. It doesn't matter if you have unlimited income, unlimited exposure, unlimited reach, success in business, etc. When we don't have an eye on the prize, like you said, being your own boss, that's just freedom. You know, what's wrong with freedom? Freedom to raise our kids, freedom to have time with our family, freedom to do things that we would love to do. I think ultimately that's the dream for everybody. And hey, that's why I got into this. That's exactly what I looked at when I saw that I could build an income online like all of my clients were. And, I've been doubted, especially by the people closest to me. It's this thing that happens where the voices that are closest to us often say, like, why are you doing that? Are you sure you should do that? When you called me and told me, and I'm a big believer, I don't want to tell someone not to leap. I'd rather tell you jump. When you called me and told me that you had quit your job, I had that same feeling that I think anybody that cares about somebody would think is like, oh, snap. Oh, gosh, what do we do now? Like, okay, what's the plan? And like, I was more worried than you were. And I think anybody that cares about somebody is in that aspect. And so, kind of as a defense mechanism, most people around us will go, well, don't do that. You're messing up. What makes you think you could do this? What makes you think you can build a living online? What makes you think you can sell enough fish to build the biggest fish shop in America? Why? Who? If not you, then who? You're the one that's called to do this. And if you're hearing this message and you hear this message, if not who, then, if not you, then who? Like, if you hear it, it is you. It is for you. It's time to chase the dream. You don't have to quit your job today. You don't have to throw away your shoes before you get a new pair. You can start building your podcast, your website, your empire, your shop online, your group, your community, writing your book, designing your dream life today, one step at a time, just beginning by adding one thing and removing another. Because when we say no to one thing, it means yes to another. Saying no to walking into that office, to stepping onto that train and heading downtown, in my case, meant yes to living the life now that I get with my family, where I'm about to head out to teen night and tomorrow's client day, and I'll be running around, and then Thursday's park day, and so it's like this juxtaposition of the dream life. So guys, I want you to know, if this hits home, tell a friend. Like I said, that's the biggest compliment. That's how we're going to grow. We have 0 subscribers. You could be the first. Then tell your friend. And that's the show. That is the show. We're going to tell you our stories. We're going to keep it transparent. The real, the raw, the honest, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of the times it just won't be pretty. I'll try to keep a smile and keep some positive attitude and keep Travis's energy up too. I'll try to get Travis to really go off on a limb here. He gets really hyped when we talk about anime and not so much when I just talk about computers. But, the whole idea is go subscribe, tell a friend, and if it makes sense to you, join the Totally Free Academy, because it's launching in July and our listeners can secure a spot in the free academy starting today. strategies, courses, training, playbooks, all that to save time and money and help you find your way when you do the thing that people say no way about. It's how we found ourselves here. So you know what to do. Until next time, I'm Machen Matthews for Travis Boyette saying, make it happen.